And he's going to look back over the first ever World Cup finals that took place in 1930 in Uruguay. And some of the things that happened, you will not believe. It's worth hanging around for the next 10, 15 minutes or so. Tim, welcome back to the show, bud.
Lovely to be here. And, you know, this is topical as well, because the centenary of the first ever World Cup is coming up, 2030. Yep. And Uruguay want to stage it to celebrate it. Obviously, Uruguay's only got one city, Montevideo, so it can't do it all on its own these days. It will be Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay and Chile. Right. But, you know, we could be going back. We could be going back to our roots. Wow. Right back to where we started from.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, let's go back to 1930. The world was a very different place, of course, and football was a very different sport. I think if you could transport Jules Rimet back in 1930, fast forward to 2022, and show him what he started and what it looked like now, he wouldn't be able to comprehend the magnitude of what this tournament has turned into. But just go back to the very beginning. Tell us about this, because the teams had to travel by steam. Both there was obviously, you know, they had to pick one another up. There was no other way of getting to Uruguay. But tell us how it all started.
Well, it starts from the Olympics, because Uruguay come over to the France Olympics in 24, which FIFA organised the Olympic football tournament. And the level of football they played, they just cruised. No one had heard of them. What is this country, Uruguay? And they just cruised to the Olympic gold medal with a style of football. If you read what the French were saying about it, it's exactly what we say about Brazil these days.
Right.
Football had really taken off in South America. They came back in 28. They won the Olympic gold medal again. Argentina also came and won silver. So there has to be a tournament that's open to professionals as well, not just amateurs. Right. And that's why the World Cup is born. Uruguay is quite rich at this stage because of refrigeration has been invented. So you can keep the beef that they produce and you can send it over to Europe. Right. So Uruguay offer to pay the travelling costs of all of the teams to get them all over and Uruguay build this stadium, which it's fantastic now, the Centenario Stadium. At the time, it must have looked like some giant spaceship, and it wasn't ready for the start of the competition. But you've got in 1930, you've got this really quaint mixture of the absolutely old-fashioned and the modern. The absolutely old-fashioned is players wandered on and off the field whenever they want. If they want to rest, they just wandered off, you know, and go and have a raz or have a drink or something like that. Officials are wandering off and on the field, you know, the masseurs and something. So there's this lovely informality about it. The referees are kind of dressed resplendently in suits, but you also get, you can see modern day passion, because football has taken off in South America, especially during the First World War, where Europe's too busy killing itself. You know, football has become a real passionate thing in South America, and you already got matches with fences, you know, and matches being abandoned because the fans are invading the pitch. There was one game, it was Argentina against France. The referee blew his whistle 6 minutes too early. Argentina's winning 1-0. The fans all invade. And then the losing teams, France, say, well, hang on a minute, we want 6 more minutes. So they have to spend ages clearing the fans away and then bringing them back for the 6 more minutes. My favourite story about it is another refereeing story. It's the final. It's Argentina against Uruguay. And it's, you know, there's rows all over the place. It kicks off 15 minutes late because they're arguing about the ball. They ended up playing the first half with the Argentina ball and the second half with the Uruguay ball. The referee, he's this giant Belgian, kind of strides around in his black suit. He's seen which way the wind's blowing. He demands 2 things to referee. He wants FIFA to buy him a life insurance policy, and he wants the times that the boat's changed. So as soon as the final whistle is blown, he can get off onto the boat and away as quickly as possible, because he's already seen that football over here, you know, it's not anymore a kind of gentlemanly pursuit. And when it first started, football, you know, if a penalty was given, you used to kick it wide on purpose, because no gentleman could possibly have deliberately committed a foul. So to show this, you kick it wide on purpose. By 1930, you're already in the modern age with real passions being generated by football.
Well, So listen, as you mentioned, the tournament was hosted in Uruguay. So I'm going to read a little bit about this remarkable tournament. The tournament was hosted by Uruguay, and the European side sailed together across the Atlantic aboard a Scottish steamship. They travelled on the top deck and stopped off to rear to pick up the Brazilians. Jules Rimet was there. He travelled with them, and he had the trophy in his suitcase. Egypt, the only African representatives, were supposed to join and set off late and missed the boat. The Pharaohs telegraphed their apologies, leaving the tournament with an awkward 13 teams. How did they cope with just 13 teams?
They had one group of 4 and 3 groups of 3. Mexico, they went by train to New York and then an 18-day boat trip down. So it's this world before flying. Lindbergh had only crossed the Atlantic for the first time in 1927. So that's how people got around. The leisurely days of boat travel.
This one I want to bring up, which is absolutely baffling me. The American manager rushed onto the field to confront the ref, tripped and smashed a bottle of chloroform in his pocket. The fumes knocked him out unconscious and he had to be stretchered off. First of all, what's he doing with that in his pocket, and who's he trying to put to sleep?
Well, it was a tough game for the States, this one. They lost a player with a broken leg in the first half. The goalkeeper had a dislocated shoulder, and then in the second half, it might well have been the incident that Robert Miller, the coach, was protesting about. Another midfielder had a cut lip. So I think, he needed some kind of rudimentary medical supplies, but he never imagined they'd be used on himself. Rushes onto the field, falls over, breaks the bottle, and the photos of it are fantastic. With everyone standing around him trying to revive him. Absolutely brilliant, priceless.
Indeed. I mean, you couldn't make. I'm just imagining Gareth Southgate running on the field to attack the referee and have some chloroform. See Gareth stretching off. There's another part to this story as well. So when the tournament kicked off, Argentina quickly established themselves as the bad boys. Police had to intervene after a violent scrap in the game against Chile, but it was their 6-1 semi-final win over the USA where things got really ugly, and that goes into that. You mentioned about the broken leg. So when Argentina had 4 teeth knocked out. The American had 4 teeth knocked out. Another ended up in hospital with injuries to his stomach. So there is something about the Argentinians back there that you could actually argue carried through the ages.
Indeed, yeah. And Neymar worries about getting the odd foul these days. They don't know they're born, do they, these modern players?
Remarkable stuff. So how was it? So the final itself, during the final host Uruguay took on their host nation Argentina. More than 15,000 Argentinian fans needed. They mentioned there they boarded the train. They got lost in heavy fog. It said they missed. Yes. They actually missed the game. So those 15,000 fans, they never actually made it to the game at all.
No, but they arrived. I think the second half had already kicked off, but it was a full stadium anyway. I think anyone who wanted to get in had got in. The crowds for some of the smaller games, like 2,500, I think was the smallest. But this one here, this is 80,000. There's at least, with all the people who probably didn't pay to get in. There's more than 80,000 in this stadium. Now Wembley's only been open 7 years. So these are the first modern real temples, cathedrals of football, and I would worry a little bit about a World Cup there in what's 5.5 years' time. There's not a lot of time to do all the work that would need to be done, because that stadium is very, very similar to the way it was in 1930. They'd have to spend a lot of money to whack it up to shape, and also it's so cold. Honestly, Uruguay in June, July, it's like walking inside a freezer. It's not my favourite holiday destination in that time of year as well. But there would be something quite touching and sentimental about going back there. But if we do end up back there in 2030, careful with your bottle of chloroform.
I've got another one. There's during the trip home, Romanian midfielder Alfred Essenbayer fell ill and was taken off to hospital when the boat stopped in Genoa. The team continued their journey, but when they arrived back in Bucharest without him, a rumour spread that he had died. Even his distraught mother was convinced, and she made funeral arrangements only for Führer to walk through the door on the day of the funeral. And she fainted on the spot. What's going on here?
There's probably thousands of young people in the kingdom at the moment saying, What? Couldn't they just send a WhatsApp message?
Yeah,
no,
no.
You didn't have none of that back then.
God.
Amazing stuff. And it says here, the last bit here, Tim, it wasn't all bad because when he recovered, Fury, he said he recovered, he competed for Romania in the both figure skating and bobsleigh in the next Olympics. So this guy was a bit of a legend in Romanian history.
Yeah, fantastic. The day of the all round. Are you probably just old enough, Jason, to remember when people could play both football and cricket?
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, both of them. Yeah. There's one thing.
Yeah. But you can't do that these days. But those really were the days of the kind of gentleman amateur, who could be a dilettante at a number of sporting things. But there's not many like yourself, Jason, with so many strings to his bow. A top former centre back and a top broadcaster as well.
Oh, Tim, you're too lovely. You're too lovely. Tim, as always, a pleasure to share your company. Tim, where are you watching the game tomorrow? What's it going to be like in South America? The England game, of course. I'm talking.
Well, the England game on Saturday. Yeah, I'm doing loads of stuff for Brazilian TV, so I can't watch it in a bar. I got to sit down and concentrate. So, what's your take on that? Because I have the French. I look at their defensive unit and I look at ours, and I fancy them. Unfortunately, do you agree?
Right. They probably they're the favourites. The bookies don't get much wrong. But this feels to me as if this is the best chance. I think if we beat France, I think whoever wins this, I think gets the final. That's how it feels.
Right.
But we will see. Tim, as always, my friend, thank you very much.
Cheers,
enjoy
Tim.
and good luck.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers,
my pleasure.
The brilliant Tim Vickery, their South American football expert, and a pleasure to speak to. It's there has to be a documentary done on this World Cup. I promise you, the 1930 World Cup. It's truly remarkable. Now you look fast forward. Was it 90 odd years or 92 years? You think about where we are now today and this brilliant game that we've got, this wonderful tournament, the greatest show on earth, and it continues live on TalkSport. Do not forget, Croatia take on Brazil, 3:00 later on Friday. Netherlands take on Argentina. That again on Friday. The other two.